Hi, and welcome back to Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. I'm your host, Ashley Cummins. So for those of you that are just listening, I'm a mum of 2 energetic boys, a wife to my amazing husband, Steve. I also compete in powerlifting. I have done CrossFit on and off for 10 years, and I also do high rocks races. So I know what it's like to be busy. I know what it's like to really try and beat that mindset, those thoughts and those patterns, which is why I created this podcast, to talk to you and give you tips and tools to help you become the best version of yourself. Which brings me to today's episode, the 3 C's: condemn, criticize and complain. These 3 C's are the fastest path to your unhappiness. And they're so easy for us to do. So many people out there condemn, criticize, and complain. As much as they feel harmless, they feel normal, and they feel justified, they're your easiest path to unhappiness. And the scary part of this is most people don't even realize that they're doing it. A lot of us do it, as I said, and aren't even aware. And it's not because our life is terrible, not because circumstances are impossible, but because these behaviours slowly rewire your brain, your identity, and your emotional baseline. They don't just explode in your life overnight. You've probably been condemning, criticising, and complaining without even realising. So let's dive in. Condemning, the habit of judging others. Condemning is when we position ourselves above someone else. We'll look at someone's choices and think, I would never do that. They're lazy. They don't deserve that. She shouldn't be coaching. He shouldn't be successful. It gives you a temporary ego boost, but because when you condemn someone, you feel superior. For a moment, you feel bigger. But here's the cost, right? Every time we judge someone harshly, you reinforce comparison in our own mind. And if you've listened to any of my episodes, comparison is the thief of your joy. Now, just to touch on something and a little bit off tangent, everybody's story makes sense with enough information. But it's not your job to find that information. It's not your responsibility. And it gets to that Mel Robbins saying, let them. Comparison is a breeding ground for insecurity. The brain cannot hold superiority or superior thoughts and peace at the same time. When you condemn others, you train your mind to constantly scan for flaws. You become hyper aware of what's wrong in other people. And you know what? Eventually, that spotlight turns on you. So now you start judging yourself the same way. You start saying, I should be further, I'm behind, I'm not good enough. And we all know the emotion anxiety, and this is where it grows. Condemning is easy. It keeps you stuck in ego, not growth. But if we go even deeper, condemning is rarely about the other person, right? So when we condemn, and as I said, most of us don't even realize that we're doing it, these 3 C's are often what I see in a lot of people. And I used to even see it in myself before I became aware. It's about protection. When someone's discipline, confidence, courage, or success triggers you, condemning is the fastest way to shrink them so you don't feel small. She's only lean because she has no kids. Or he must be on something. That business won't last. That is an analysis. So we start trying to make sense of something, and it soothes our ego. Your brain experiences discomfort when someone else achieves something you want, but you aren't stepping towards. Instead of rising to the level of effort, it's so easy for us humans to lower the value of their success. But every time you do this, you teach yourself it's safer to judge than to try. And when we repeatedly choose safety over growth, we build a smaller life. And this isn't because we're incapable, right? It's because you avoid discomfort that would expand you. Happy people are not obsessed with who is wrong and who is right. They're focused on who they're becoming. This is something that I've had personal growth in the last few months, is that my success is mine. And that doesn't need to paint a picture of keeping up with the Joneses. That doesn't mean to have hundreds and $1,000s in the bank account. That doesn't mean to have a fancy house. My success is personal. My success is helping others grow, being the happiest version of myself. And to do that, I will never get there if I condemn others. I'm happy for other people's successes. They are who they are, and I am who I am. So accepting yourself for who you are and what you want, rather than trying to be accepted. This is a big lesson for me, is acceptance, is I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And I used to try and mold myself on what can I do better and all those sorts of things to try and keep everybody happy, rather than just be me. Be authentically myself and love my life. And that stops you condemning others, because you're proud of their successes. Their story makes enough sense with enough information, but it's not your responsibility to find it, right? Your responsibility is you and what you're doing and your goal. Doesn't mean that you can't be happy for others. Doesn't mean that you don't have people to look up to. You just start focusing inwards, because if it doesn't involve you, stay out of it. The second C is criticizing. The illusion of intelligence. Criticizing feels smart. You feel sharp. It feels like you're aware. But there's a difference between constructive feedback and constant criticism. Constructive feedback builds and chronic criticism erodes. So as a coach, is this something that I've learned? I can always tell people what they're not doing, but that's not going to help them. That only makes them feel small. Rather than focusing on the person's strength and leading them rather than pushing them, rather than criticizing with all the things that they could be doing but they're not doing. Looking at the person and praising them for what they are doing, and remembering that their situation would make enough sense if I had enough information. And again, going back to, it's not my responsibility to find that. When you live in a criticism mode, you start filtering life through negativity. That workout wasn't good enough. That coach didn't program it right. The gym isn't organized. My partner didn't do enough. My results aren't fast enough. You become hyper-focused on what's wrong. And when you repeatedly focus on something, this becomes your reality. So where your focus goes, your energy flows. So let me use an analogy, is that when you go to buy a new car, and you might be buying a red car, how many times do you see more red cars? That is a prime example of where your focus goes, your energy flows. And when you repeatedly focus on the negative, this becomes your reality. So a lot of people cry victim in their circumstance and they go, I don't know why this is happening to me, but all they're focusing on is what's wrong. So of course they're going to get more of what's wrong. You literally train yourself to see problems everywhere. Chronic criticism activates your brain's threat system. Your amygdala, the part of your brain, I can't pronounce that properly, your threat detection center becomes more active. You live slightly on the edge, you're always slightly irritated, always dissatisfied, and over time nothing feels good enough. No progress feels sufficient, no win feels satisfying. That is a direct route to unhappiness. So that's the second C, is criticism. Because gratitude and criticism cannot occupy the same space. So when you're grateful for what you have, grateful for the opportunities, and grateful to be surrounded by the others that have different things to you, you cannot criticize or condemn at the same time. The brain doesn't distinguish well between criticizing others and criticizing yourself. So if you're always criticizing others or the circumstances, you're more likely to be more criticizing yourself. If your language outward from your body sounds like, that's not good enough, that was done wrong, that's stupid, eventually it turns inward and it becomes, I'm not good enough, I always mess up, I should be better. You train yourself to feel so inadequate that you are always unhappy. And no achievement will fix that, because this habit isn't external. It's how you've trained your brain. So that covers condemning and criticizing. Let's go into part 3, complaining. This is the most addictive one. This is the one that I see as a coach and as a self-development coach and as a leader, is complaining. It's the sneakiest of the 3 C's because it bonds people. It creates quick connection. Complaining about work, about politics, about your body, about clients, about money, it feels validating. It feels like a release. But complaining has a hidden psychology and it costs you your happiness. Because when you complain repetitively, you reinforce helplessness. You tell your brain, this is happening to me. I have no control. I am stuck. And the helplessness is one of the strongest predictors of depression. Humans need agency to feel fulfilled. Even small choices increase happiness. So when you turn this around and say, this life is happening for me, this life isn't happening to me, you take back your control. But every time you complain, this isn't followed by action of strength. You're either complaining or you're accepting it, changing it, or leaving it. Anything else is just emotional sabotage. And here's the hard truth. The longer you complain, the harder it becomes to act and change. Because you reversed inaction. You reversed a victim mentality. You've strengthened that pathway of staying where you are. And deep down, that creates frustration because a big part of you knows you're capable of more. Unhappiness often isn't from failing. It's from knowing you're avoiding the growth. And that comes from complaining about everything that you don't have, rather than accepting it, choosing to change it, or leaving it. Remember, if it doesn't involve you, stay out of it. It's not your problem. It's not your responsibility. So the 3 C's, the emotional and identity cost. If someone lives condemning, criticizing, and complaining for years, they slowly become easily triggered, hard to satisfy, constantly comparing, they become defensive, they become resentful, and emotionally reactive. They lose the ability to celebrate others' success. Everything feels competitive instead of collaborative. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. Be happy for them. And if you want to change yours, change them. Don't complain about them. Don't criticize others. And don't condemn. Your life is your responsibility. These people also feel like everything's a threat. They're living in a constant threat mode, and that is exhausting. The 3 C's feel powerful in the moment. They help feed that ego. And that ego keeps us safe, but they're keeping you stuck in a loop of unhappiness. They are slow poison. They're not so dramatic. You might think that complaining about your life or complaining about the weather might not mean anything, but over time, constantly complaining, where your energy goes, your focus flows. You're just quietly reshaping your personality 3 C's at a time. You're constantly condemning, you're constantly criticizing yourself or others, or you're constantly complaining about your circumstance, other people's circumstance, what's going on outside your control. And you're probably thinking, why are the 3 C's such an easier path to unhappiness? It's because, how do I put this? It's because you're constantly focusing on negative, to put it simple, rather than positive. That doesn't mean you need to think life is all sunshine and roses, because in reality it's not. But we constantly focus on things that are out of our control or things that don't even involve us. We all have an opinion, and that's fine. But if it doesn't involve you, stay out of it. Everybody's circumstance is different, but it's not your responsibility to find that information. It's not your responsibility to fix it. Your responsibility is you. Those 3 C's protect you from that discomfort. They create an illusion of you're in control. But the real control comes from taking ownership. And ownership sounds like, I'm triggered because I want that. I'm criticizing because I'm insecure. I'm complaining because I'm scared to change. That level of honesty is very rare because it's uncomfortable. Nobody likes to admit that they're wrong. So something personal is that my personality can often be bossy and I can often push people instead of leading. And I'm the first one to go, especially over the last couple of months, is that I own that. And, I'm going to change that because I'm going to wait until somebody asks me for my opinion. I'm going to wait for someone to ask me for their advice. I'm going to find positivity in other people's ways of doing things. And actually saying that out loud and saying that in that podcast today makes me feel uncomfortable, but it also restores my power and it makes me a more confident person. Replace the 3 C's with the 3 R's. So if you're condemning, get curious, criticize, contribute, complain, create a path out of that complaint. What can I control? What can I improve? What is this teaching me? What am I avoiding? That shift moves you from ego to ownership, from reaction to response, from resentment to growth. So anyone can condemn, anyone can criticize, and anyone can complain. It's easy. And that's why it's so dangerous. So you're probably thinking, what are the 3 R's? Responsibility. This is a big one. Responsibility means I may not control everything, but I can control my response. It's asking, what part of this is mine? What can I influence? Where am I contributing to the situation? Responsibility is not blame, it's self-power. Blame says this is my fault, I'm hopeless. Responsibility says if I play a role, I can change it. Second R, reflection. Reflection is awareness without ego. Instead of, they're the problem, you ask, what did that trigger me? What is this showing me? And what am I avoiding? Reflection requires emotional maturity. It means pausing before reacting. It means being curious instead of defensive. Condemning looks outward, reflection looks inward. And remember, who are we responsible for in this world? Is you. Nobody else. Third R is response. This is where everything can change. Response means you don't just feel, you choose. Something happens instead of condemning, criticizing, or complaining. You respond intentionally. Response asks, what actions align with the person I want to become? What would a strong version of me do here? What solutions can I create? Response restores your power. It shifts you from emotional reaction to conscious decision. And that shift alone changes your identity. So the 3 R's can create more happiness than the path of 3 C's that lead you to a path of unhappiness. The 3 C's drain, the 3 R's rebuild. But most importantly, the 3 R's can create control, awareness, and momentum, and are foundations of your psychological well-being. And that's a wrap for today's episode. So remember, anyone can condemn, anyone can criticize, anyone can complain. It requires no courage, no vulnerability, and no growth. It's the easiest path. And that's exactly why it leads to unhappiness. Because every time you choose the 3 C's, you hand your power away. You reinforce comparison, you strengthen dissatisfaction, and you rehearse helplessness. And over time, that becomes your personality. But you have another option: responsibility, reflection, and response. Responsibility says, I may not control everything, but I control me. Reflection says, what is this teaching me? Response says, I choose how I move forward. And that's where confidence is built. So if you take anything away from today's episode, take away that the 3 C's is your fastest way to unhappiness. And the 3 R's, that's where you build confidence, that's where peace lives, and that's where growth happens. Not in blaming, not in judging, not in complaining, but in ownership. Notice when you feel the urge to condemn. Notice when you slip into criticism, and notice when you start complaining. Instead of reacting, pause. Choose the 3 R's, because the person you become is built in those small, repetitive decisions. And happiness is not something you'll find, it's something you build, one response at a time. So if this episode has resonated with you, please share it with somebody that you might think will benefit from it. And please tag AMBT. I love seeing those listen to my podcast. When I first started this, obviously it's a bit nerve-wracking, so it means a lot to see those people listening. And until next time, guys, keep it real.